Here, the inbound comes right down to Kubo. Hands back to Mayo. Gives it to Knight. Top of the key jumper for the tie. No. Rebound tap. No. Rebound Ingles. Jazz win.
Hello, band.
This is Dante Exum. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
The Jazz win in Milwaukee. Dante Exum gets the start. Gordon Hayward is massive, and Enes Kanter. That's big time, boys and girls. We'll talk about all of that coming up, plus a look at the All-Stars and the LaMarcus Aldridge injury. It's all coming up on Tip-Off. Bop, 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 bop. Pow. How are you? I'm David Locke. Good morning. Welcome. Cheers. I have a little cereal this morning, too, but I don't think I can pull that off. Welcome to edition of Tip-Off. Oh, that is good. It is so good to have my own coffee at home. That is one of my favorites. It's an Ethiopian. For those who don't care, just deal with it. Deal with my love and affection for coffee because it creates caffeinated and crazy. Let's get to the show. Jazz are home Saturday against Brooklyn. If you get a chance to come out and join us, we would love to have you there. Tickets are available at UtahJazz.com. They have Brooklyn on Monday, Clippers on Wednesday, and Warriors on Friday. 4-game homestand. Then off to Portland, back home against Memphis, off to Sacramento, home against Tyrone Corbin in Sacramento. And then 2 quick road ones before we hit the All-Star break. The end of the Eastern Conference coming up here a little bit, as we got 2 coming up, but a nice win last night for the Jazz. And Dante Exum makes the start. Cool story before the game. Joe Ingles' fiance, Renee, is enormous in the world of Australia sports. She's become very close with this girl, Lucy Hancock, who is stricken with a disease that eats away at her face. She's had all these surgeries. The leader in the world is in Madison, Wisconsin, so they came down to the game. Joe got to spend time with him. I actually saw Joe grab the rebound and point it up to the crowd afterwards to them, which I thought was a really, really neat moment. All right, let's hit the NBA 5.
This is Dante Exum, and you are locked on Jazz.
A little bit of a changing of the guard when it comes to NBA All-Star picks out there here in the NBA 5. John Wall and Kyle Lowry are your starting guards in the Eastern Conference. It's the next generation. Lowry really is quite a story. Lowry is a late first-round draft pick, maybe even a second-round draft pick, actually, out of Villanova with Randy Foye, and I think he's a late first, and works his way to an All-Star game. That doesn't happen very often. That's a pretty enormous story to have take place. Carmelo obviously gets the bid, and I actually take a different answer on this, by the way. It's fan voting. It's the fans' game. I really believe that the fans should be able to vote in whoever they want to see. So if they want to see Carmelo, despite the fact he's not having a great year, then put him on. Put on Kobe. Put on Kevin Durant. Like, I think the next one that gets very complicated is Kevin Durant. Excuse me, did I say Garnett a minute ago? Kevin Durant an All-Star. See, I think the fans definitely want to see him. I think he's a staple of the game. I think he should be part of the All-Star weekend. I mean, he's great, right? He's our MVP. But he's played like 14 games. So what do you do if you're a coach voting? See, that's where I actually wish the fans had voted Kevin Durant in. And then if Durant gets in, then you don't have – then okay, well, it's the fans speaking. But now it gets a little sketchy, actually. But James Harden will probably replace Kobe as he did last year, would be my guess, and I would hope that Durant makes it. But, you know, fans left off Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Durant, and Chris Paul. Those are usual names that we're seeing there. And the two Gasol brothers, Mark and Pau, will become the first brothers to ever start in an All-Star game. That's pretty incredible. And I don't know if that's an international vote that came from Spain or what caused that, but it's an interesting moment. All right, Western Conference, major injury other than Oklahoma City has struck. And Portland, who last year had such a remarkable health year. And if you recall at the beginning of the year, I was asked if there was any team I thought would drop out of the playoffs. I took Portland just because there was no way they could stay as healthy as they were a year ago. Well, I think they've built themselves a good enough cushion. But LaMarcus Aldridge out with thumb surgery 6 to 8 weeks. And I'll tell you what, 8 weeks is 24 games. It's also going to be hard for him to come back. You know, he's got to be bandaged up, and there's still going to have to be a support system there. I mean, I think they're pushing that one a little bit. Millsap had that surgery right at the end of a season, so it's not going to be an easy one to come back from. Now, Portland has played 34 games this year, 24 of them in conference, which is about, it's not anything abnormal. The Clippers have only played 22 in conference. The Spurs have played 30 in conference. They're the high end of things. We've only played 23 in conference. So they're on the little bit of the low end. So they're going to have a more Western Conference games coming. They have a great home court advantage, but they're 5-5 in their last 10, even without dealing with all of this. So what's their margin of error? They have a 7-game cushion in the loss column to Oklahoma City. If they were to go 12-12 over the next 24 without LaMarcus Aldridge, and they have about 38 left, and the Thunder would have to go over that same period of time, the Thunder would have to go 19-5. It's reasonable that the Thunder could get hot like that, and actually probably, that's a little high. But Portland could very well be at 7 or 8 by the time LaMarcus Aldridge comes back, with Phoenix and the Thunder knocking on their door. They only have a 5-game lead in the loss column on Phoenix. Phoenix, by the way, has won 8 of 10. Only Golden State's 9 of 10 better in the NBA. This injury is big, and the West, it is as crazy as it is. It's so bunched up. There's only 1.5 games separating 2 through 6. So Portland, for all intents and purposes, has probably lost home court advantage with this injury. And now the question is, do they stay in the playoffs? With Phoenix and Oklahoma City charging, they've built themselves a good enough cushion. Heck, until yesterday, they were number 2 in the West. But it's going to be touch and go, and it's going to be interesting to see how much they're going to miss LaMarcus. That's a special 20 possession usage that, their three-point game is predicated on his spacing. Plus, they already are without Robin Lopez. Plus, they're already without Joel Freeland. This could be catastrophic for Portland in the upcoming weeks. I think it'll be interesting to see the analysis when you couple it with, it's not just LaMarcus, which is enormous. They just don't. Thomas Robinson's not getting that job done on the backside. It's more that they have so many other injuries. They play extensively Eastern Conference teams starting now. They lost last night home to Boston. They have Washington, on the road to Brooklyn, Cleveland, Atlanta, Milwaukee. Home against the Jazz, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, Lakers, Jazz. It's pretty soft. There's 2 ways to look at that. 1, it means they can get through it. 2, any loss in that stretch is going to be a big, big deal. That, my friends, unless I'm forgetting something. Am I forgetting anything from last night? Chicago crushed San Antonio last night. It's a little surprising. And the Clippers, Brooklyn is just a disaster. That NBA front office piece by Chad Ford and Kevin Pelton and others really, really was quite good about how disastrous the situation in Brooklyn and how mismanaged it is. That is your NBA 5.
Hey, Jazz Nation, this is Dante Exum. Thanks for being the best fans in the NBA.
How about the kid, 19 years old, making the start for the Utah Jazz last night with a healthy Trey Burke? A changing of the guard could have taken place. It was really non-committal on Quinn's part about whether or not it was permanent, temporary, what it was. Clearly, Quinn has things he wants. They weren't being done. They weren't changing. And, at some point, Trey just wasn't playing well enough. Trey shooting below 38% and below 31 from 3. There have only been 7 players in the history of the NBA that have shot that poorly. Let me rephrase that. 6 seasons have played shot that poorly and played 30 minutes a night in NBA history. At some point, you had to give something else a try here. And let's be honest, it wasn't as though Dante really earned this. He has not been playing particularly well, but I thought the comment from Ron Boone after the game that this will change him and we might begin to see more from him is an interesting comment. Ron, who just has such an amazing and great perspective on players and what's going on. I mean, you just got to understand how long he's been in the game, right? I mean, he's 40 plus years in the game at this point. And he just said it last night, he's going to be different each time we see him come out now for a little while. He had, I think, gotten comfortable and figured out how to not make mistakes and just be okay in that other role of 20 minutes a night coming off the bench, and they'd increased it a few times, and then he really just was struggling. And, I mean, at times the coaches wanted to play him more, and just threw him out there last night. Now, that's a pretty soft landing. Brandon Knight's not great, but the key thing Dante did last night was defend Brandon Knight. And he's got 2 more soft ones here. He's got Brooklyn with Jarrett Jack, and then an Avery Bradley, Evan Turner, Marcus Smart combo point guard in Boston before he has a nice little run to the Wolves of Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Mike Conley, and Phoenix is triumphant. Woo, kid! Hello. So we'll see, and there are going to be some 19-year-old moments, but no question that I thought he acquitted himself well. It's exciting. I will admit, I find it exciting. There's something to seeing him out there in that role, playing with Gordon. Joe Ingles was just terrific last night with a career-high assist to complement what we were getting from Dante, and I found it exciting. I will say that. Trey, I was very impressed with how he dealt with it. Showed great maturity. One of those moments where you kind of say, okay, this kid's got something to him, right? He's had something to him, whether it's late game clutch moments, winning his entire career. What he doesn't have is height and athleticism, and so you wonder, can he find a way to be successful in this league? Without that height and without that athleticism, does he have that? It's so hard to play in this league. But there were more things than that. I mean, Quinn really wanted a push, and we saw in the first half, and particularly the first quarter, the Jazz playing the offense like Quinn talked about it in preseason, and we haven't seen that at all. Trey has a tendency to come back to the basketball, to not go for outlet passes. He has a tendency to not throw that second outlet pass. What Quinn really wants is the first pass out and the second pass ahead, and then if someone can break at the 45, they break at the 45. Remember those conversations? And they just simply haven't been happening. The other thing is that Dante is better than Trey defensively. It's undeniable. And at some point, Trey's not good, has not been that much better than Dante offensively. So at some point, you got to try it. So Quinn wanted 3 things last night from Dante. He wanted a thrust offensively. He wanted Brandon Knight to feel him, and Brandon Knight was off his game and bothered by Dante until he had Trey Burke on him late in the second quarter, and then he got to going, and then he got going a little bit early third, and then the Jazz took that away a little bit, I think, with some help defense. So he did that, and the third thing was just to go out and make some plays, and I thought we began to see him make a few more plays. Drive baseline, flip up Dennis for the jump shot. He tried 2 little runners. They're working very hard in those in practice, those little floaters. I mean, it's such a low percentage shot, but it's the choice you have. We're going to see, I see it in practice all the time, a ridiculous athleticism out of him every now and then. Baseline drive, popped a crab dribble legally the other day and turned it into a dunk, which I'm not sure I've seen many guys do. We're going to see that as time goes, as Dante begins to figure things out, as he has matchups, as he gets a little bit more aggressive, as he has more time on the floor, he probably feels more comfortable about making a mistake if he's going to play a little bit more. We're going to see those moments. There's also going to be some moments, and we're going to still need Trey Burke to make a lot of plays for this basketball team the rest of the way. And I think if there's any lesson in the NBA right now, it is, and I was talking to some people who are very knowledgeable in the NBA, be very careful about giving up on a point guard too fast. Now, there's 2 kind of statistical things going on here. One is teams that give up on top 10 picks. The second, it's Chad Ford talks about the second draft. Kevin Pelton just wrote a piece on it about the second draft. The second draft is when the guys on their first team don't do well, and so they go to the second. The second draft is actually not very successful on top 10 picks. When teams have top 10 picks and they decide, it doesn't have it, they're probably right. But I'm not sure that that's the decision that was necessarily made yesterday. I think the decision was that this team needed a spark. This team needed to get to the way Quinn wanted to play. That Trey had had 40 games to try to play that way. He hadn't been doing it. And so let's try something else. Furthermore, without Alec, without Rodney, that bench needs some scoring. It was getting colossally bad. And Trey can come out and bring a little extra scoring and play and maybe, frankly, play a slower pace to shorten the game that he's more comfortable in those moments will work better for him. But I think there's another thing is if you look at Brandon Knight last night, you look at Brandon Jennings in Milwaukee, and you look at Jeff Teague in Atlanta, and you even look at John Wall's slow development. Point guards develop very, very slowly in this league, and it takes some time, and you can make a pretty big mistake by quitting early on a point guard in this league. And so let's not throw Trey out the door quite yet. Frankly, Ennis is showing this. I mean, Ennis' inconsistency night to night is showing us how young these guys are and how difficult it is. I've talked about this a lot. First time they're doing something is an experience, and then you've got to watch them the second time through to see what they've learned, what they can do, how they do it. It's what, frankly, makes how awesome Rudy is right now stunning. You know, it's the first time he's done any of this, and he is using pure athleticism, fight, grit, and talent, crazy talent, and biological length to create and do things that are just awesome. And he's only going to get better the next time through the experience. The ceiling for Rudy Gobert right now is insane. Before I get too far, Gordon Hayward's fourth quarter last night was, whew. You know what? Sometimes this league is simple. We go play Cleveland, we don't have a LeBron, they do. We go play Milwaukee, they don't have a Gordon Hayward. Right? We do. That on that tier of things, you know, we don't have a, you know, I don't know what, you know, we don't have a Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook, but somebody else doesn't have a Gordon Hayward. That was clear to me about Milwaukee last night. We had a guy we could go to late in games, make plays, and he just bogarted people, kicked the crap out of him. You know, we kept bringing a pick to Gordon, and Gordon scoring 75% of his buckets in the fourth quarter without an assist. In the future, let's go 1-4 flat, run some other stuff. It's such a boring play, but you bring that ball up to Gordon, the pick up to Gordon, you're just bringing a second defender on a team that doesn't have a lot of other options. In which, you know, I'm doubling Gordon every time if I'm the other team. That's what Jason Kidd did last night. I think you got to start. As boring as this, it's why the Scott Brooks complaints are such crap. If you run a pick and roll for Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook, unless it's a Russell Westbrook Kevin Durant pick and roll, all you're doing is bringing a second defender to the ball and allowing them to double team. If you space the floor and let Durant go ISO, if they bring another defender, then that guy's wide open and Durant finds him on his account. There is. I know it's not aesthetically pleasing, and I know it's not, and you know it seems wrong, but it's actually the right play. That's a huge the isolation 1-4 set or wherever your guy wants it. If he likes it that way, that's the right play. And for Gordon, that's the right play. Gordon had 12 points and 2 assists. He contributed to all 10 points of a 10-0 run late in the game that were almost all isolation plays, and then when we kept bringing the pick with Canner, they were doubling, and we couldn't get, and then we had all sorts of problems. Let's go to Courtney Gardner with some questions. Were you shocked to see Exum start last night? Do you think this will be a regular thing here on out? What's your take on roles of players? Example, Exum over Burke as a starter or bigs. How do you keep players invested? I think, was I shocked? You know, I got word of it during the day. We're in the hotel with everyone you find out, and so I knew I'd talk to Quinn about it when we got to the arena. No, I mean, I wasn't shocked. Let me say this. I was shocked in the sense that Exum was not playing well. Frankly, looked like he was a step away from going to the D League and needed something to get him going. I wasn't shocked in the sense that none of the things Quinn was asking for were happening out of that position right now. And so at some point you just make the change. Frankly, Dante played very, very well last night. And we're going to have some ups and downs. To say he earned that, I think that's a stretch. But at some point I think the decision just had to be made that would hopefully that would give a spark to this team and give them something. In regards to Cantor, Favors, and Gobert, I mean, Ennis just dropped back-to-back 2015 nights. I mean, that's why he's still starting. He can really do a lot of things and has a track record of doing some things and being pretty good and just needs to develop. He needs time. And it may turn out that with Rudy's development and Favors' role in this team, that we're going to move Ennis and it's going to be a bad trade and we lose on this deal. It might. It also might turn out that Ennis doesn't get a lot in the open market or not what they want, and Ennis comes back for his tender, or maybe Ennis gets a 4-year, $40 million deal, and we decide we want to keep him. I don't, a guy who can drop 2015 on back-to-back nights, I'd like him to have more than one assist. There's still huge ways for him to go. He is still an incredibly inexperienced 22-year-old. It's a big win for him last night, though. For him to put up those type of numbers in a win is a big deal. Just playing next to Rudy free things up for both Favors and Ennis. If so, how do you maximize it? It's interesting. I don't know the answer. I'd have to really watch some film to get that, because the instinct is it should do the opposite. But you're right. They're both having very good games. The concept is that Rudy's rolling to the basket and he's getting that good. Wow, the zone is calling me already. Let me find out. Hello, how long until I'm on? I was just finishing up my my postcast, so my tip off. So let me just take one last question, then I'll be right there. Okay, I'm going to answer it right now. Thanks. Would you mind talking about the difficult decision Dennis Lindsay has surrounding Cantor? It seems fans' opinions of Cantor change night to night. Of course, Lindsay is more grounded than fans, but certainly this has to be one of the more challenging decisions. Yes, I think Dennis's opinion might change night to night, frankly. I think it's but I think there's a calmness and an understanding of who he is, what he can do, what he can't do, and where he's going. So I think that's where you are. And this is why you don't skip steps. So that is tip-off.